Winners, losers, losers. I love that. Loser and contender. And I always joke around with on the waterfront.
We interchange those sometimes. That's
right?
why I wanted to make sure I had it right.
Right.
The winners, losers, contenders. I believe that everybody has to identify themselves in one of these three categories. And the winners are the people who have already made it. These are people who know how to win. They're successful already. They've achieved their goals, and they're continuing to set new goals as they do it. The losers are the people who have given up on life. These are the people who have said, I can't be the first to achieve this. I can't be the first in my family to graduate college. And they embrace the idea of not being able to do it, and they fall in line with every generation that's come before them, and they follow the story.
Opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. We have a very special guest once again today, and it is part 2 interview with Kris Mathis. He is a successful entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and the author, and I'm going to make sure I have this right to get this down. He wrote From Success to Significance, the 8 keys to achieving your goal or dream. This part of the interview is going to be his 8 keys to help you achieve any dream or goal.
It's good.
Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
Kris, for being here. I had to put my glasses on. I'm getting
Right,
older,
no
right?
problem.
So all right, we did talk about the first interview, and you can see that on Grand Tap Media YouTube channel, or go to all my social media platforms to see the beginning of this interview. And it was basically Kris's past and how he became successful and what that journey looked like when he reconciled with his dad. And that was a really touching that I was so happy you were able to do that.
Yeah.
But this part of the interview is going to be the 8 keys to help you. And I know that many of you out there are struggling with COVID, post-COVID. Maybe you've lost a lot, or you want to pivot, or maybe you looked at your life now and say what I wanted to say to myself many times: there's got to be more than this. And life is short. I want to go for it because I don't want to have regrets. Yep. So Kris, being this author, let's talk about your book and why you wrote it.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through some of those, all those keys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, the book From Success to Significance, the 8 keys to achieving any goal or dream. I was inspired to write the book because oftentimes people would ask me, how did you do it? Right?
Everybody wants to know,
that's
right?
the question I got all the time. Being a young kid from the inner city, surrounded by drugs, gangs, and violence, and then, surviving that to becoming so successful in business. And I thought, what is the best way to share this story and the things that I've learned on this journey? And that is what inspired me to write the book. And from there, I decided, okay, we're going to piece it together. We're going to tell these principles of things that I learned in this journey, and I want to be able to share them with the world.
Well, and I think it's really, you have to create a process.
Absolutely.
I mean, people look at the end goal,
Yeah.
and they don't realize it's the process.
Yep.
But with that process, it has to be able to be repeated.
The process is where the value is at.
Right.
It's not, I mean, what I've learned in this journey is it wasn't even about the money, the business, or any of those things. It was about the man that I was becoming. And the person that I became, and the things that I learned, the tools that I developed, the disciplines I learned, the maturity that came along with it, then helped me become a better business person, helped me become a better father, better husband, better servant in my community.
Right.
But it was all about that process that brought me there.
Well, before we go on to the keys, I was going to have my conversation with God and say, why do we get those at the end? Towards the end, right? And like, why can't I have some wisdom and all that kind of stuff? Because everybody, you're giving your experience to everyone else. And a lot of people don't resonate, they're just like, I don't believe it, it doesn't apply. Yep. And I'm sure you get that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go through. So we have these down. All right, and then we can talk about some of the business things they have going on. All right, so let's talk about, key number 1. Mm-hmm. What is key number 1? Let's start talking about it.
Which is?
The
reality
winners,
check of it?
losers.
Okay.
Losers, I love that. Loser and contender. And I always joke around with on the waterfront.
We interchange those sometimes. That's why
right?
I wanted to make sure I had it right.
Right.
The winners, losers, contenders. I believe that everybody has to identify themselves in one of these three categories. And the winners are the people who have already made it. These are people who know how to win. They're successful already. They've achieved their goals, and they're continuing to set new goals as they do it. The losers are the people who have given up on life. These are the people who have said, I can't be the first to achieve this. I can't be the first in my family to graduate college. And they embrace the idea of not being able to do it, and they fall in line with every generation that's come before them, and they follow the story. And they know how the story ends, and they still play it out the same way. And then the contender is the person that says, I just need a shot. I just need a shot to show my genius. That's it. Just give me a shot, and I can show you that I'm the best fit at this. I'm the best to do this. I'm the one that can make this happen if I can simply get a shot. And that is oftentimes where most people are at. They're contenders, and they're simply fighting to get their shot with the champ. And if they can defeat the champ, they can go on and move from the contender to the winner category.
And you probably see that with a lot of people being the contender. They're this close, Kris.
All the time.
They're this close.
All the time.
And I can't tell you enough. I was like, you know, and COVID hasn't helped, right? It's put some of us back a little ways, or it put us in a spot where I'm going to go for something because I can't go to my job.
Yep.
So I'm gonna shoot for this. Maybe I had people that started, you know, Charlotte Touche, who does coffee cakes. I mean, that's a dear friend of mine, and I had her on the show. She took it.
Everybody starts that little side something.
Right.
And you just never know what it can turn
Grandma's
into.
jam or something.
That's
right,
it. That's it.
You know, grandma's pie. I mean, I think everybody's been given something.
Yep.
And you may think well, it's a hobby, and it may be a hobby.
Yeah.
It may be the hobby that gets you in the door to another opportunity,
that could be the thing
right?
that changes your life. And
it may not make money.
I think everybody's blessed with something. You just got to find what that gift is for you. And for me, it became business, and it just became the lane of entrepreneurship and understanding business and the success principles and patterns that come along with it. And that's where I found my niche, and I was able to make it work.
What do you tell people that say that, though? That say, I don't know what I'm good at, Kris. I mean, they look in the mirror. You must get those people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a part of a personal development journey that person may need to go through, because no one's going to be good at everything. And they're always going to have that person that says, well, I don't know what that thing is. Right. Well, then we have to go through a process of identifying that, right? That's going to be a process over a few weeks where we may do some coaching work and have some conversation. Therapy could even be involved. It could even be tied to traumas from your past. There could be a number of reasons why you can't identify that thing. But once we do, that's what we then tap into.
Yeah. Are you, all right, number 2, like I said, the dream. That's what we led right into. But it's a dream, or maybe they tried and it didn't work out, and it could have been their process that didn't work out. It could have been just wrong timing.
Absolutely. The dream for me is you have to begin to see something beyond the eye vision. You have to be able to imagine it, see it in your head. Albert Einstein said your imagination is a preview of the attractions to come. So you got to be able to play this movie trailer out in your head of what life is supposed to look like for you beyond the current circumstances. You got to be able to envision and begin to dream it. And that becomes a part of the next phase. I did all the time. I wrote everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a journal, or you just wrote? Me, I have papers everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, and especially now with technology, it's just thrown into a digital device or something. But at that time, I mean, we wrote a lot of stuff down. I mean, I had sticky notes all over the house.
Okay.
Little quotes and reminders and things in my phone, like anything that would remind me of what I'm after to help me maintain focus of this idea, this vision, this goal, this thing that I'm telling myself that I have to get one day.
Well, you are a motivational speaker, and you're sought out all over the country and even the world, right?
Yeah.
On that one. Okay, so everybody looks at a motivational speaker today and they're like, oh, once you learn how to start speaking, that's what I want to be. But yet I always say, well, what do you have beyond that?
Right.
Do you have a successful life? Do you have a successful, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Business, which you did.
Yeah.
But
speaking is what started it for me, though. Entrepreneurship really kicked in sometime after that. But getting into the speaking space is what propelled me into the lane.
And what do you say to people? Are like, it's a lot of hard work to get up here and get content and be able to keep motivating. You can't say the same message. I mean, what do you say to them?
Yeah. First, you have to have a story. You have to have a story that you want to share. After you have a story, you have to be comfortable sharing that story, especially if it's a personal story. And what I encourage up-and-coming speakers to do is seek out some help, get some therapy, and learn. Because if you can't share this story in therapy, you definitely can't share it on a stage. Right. Especially if it's a personal journey and a personal story, relationships, parents, whatever the case may be. And you want it to be authentic. The thing with speaking today is people don't pay to hear people speak. They pay to hear people tell a story. And if you can get on stage and tell a really good story that makes a positive impact in the lives of someone in the audience, then you can have success in this industry. But if
Okay.
the goal is just to get up and speak about topics, I don't see a career in that.
Right, and I think you run out of content after
Absolutely.
a while, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and
that
I just gonna
authenticity is
say-
what sells.
Well, I think, you know what, before we move on to number 3, I was going to say that a lot of motivational speakers, I mean, you have success behind you with business and a book. I mean, a lot of them during COVID, they had to eat what they were selling
Yeah.
because we were all drowning at that point.
Yep.
And there's a lot of them that went off the radar, you know
Absolutely.
that didn't come through in
Yep.
tough times. It's easy to be motivational when things are wonderful.
That's it. That's
Right?
it. It's real easy when everything is in order.
Right, and all of a sudden the world goes to, and all of a sudden everybody was looking to their motivational speakers, but I just saw a lot of them off the radar some of those look pretty, even Simon Sinek looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing okay, but he didn't look very well physically, right? I think the whole world was upside down, and you're probably still
Absolutely.
we're coming by that. Okay, it's possible.
Yeah.
Number
yeah.
3.
So this one was inspired by, hands down, probably my #1 speaker in the world, Les Brown.
I love Les Brown
Yeah.
too.
He is the one that
I
inspires
feel
this for
small
me.
around him.
Yeah.
It's like, get up.
Before I even started all this was while I was in my mother's basement, I saw one of his videos, and that was what he said. It's possible.
It's possible.
And that was like, man, this could really happen. Like, and he actually breaks it down in this hour presentation. It was amazing. First time I'd ever heard or seen anything like this, and it was a total game changer for me. And I held on to that. And so that is kind of my nod to Les Brown. And
Yeah.
I had a chance to fly to Florida and work with him a few years ago.
Oh, does he have a story, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. Amazing story.
It's an amazing story. All right, number 4, the struggle. Life
Yeah, this
is
is-
hard.
This is my favorite one because
Why
I
don't
believe
we tell people that? No, seriously, we tell them, but we don't really
Yeah.
know until we go through it. And
Yeah.
you're like, God, it's what you want is going to be tough.
it's really easy, like you said, when things are in order and
Right.
everything is working the way you want.
Right.
And it's hard when everything falls apart. And the struggle is where I believe this is where you're truly going to be tested to see if you're really built for this. If you're really built for the thing that you say you want, is entrepreneurship or buying the first home or whatever that thing is that you're after, life is going to test you and see how bad do you want it.
Well, a lot of us was tested in COVID.
Absolutely.
And I will tell people I didn't handle that very well mentally either.
Yep.
I was similar to the people deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And you couldn't turn on your television. You saw what
Yeah.
happened in 2020.
Yeah.
It was quite scary. And seeing everybody trying to, change everything all at once. You're like, well, what is your vision to what's going to look like, right? Now, I don't think anybody really had a plan. And
It's so unpredictable.
Right, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh! But when I was looking at that, I was deer in the headlights, and then I thought about it, and I got myself out of it.
Yeah.
And over the summer, got through, and then all of a sudden, August, I was like, okay, you have to figure out. But a lot of my friends that I went through that, saw my demise mentally because I thought, oh my gosh. Okay, so my argument back to them is, well, how do you build mental strength
Yeah.
unless you go through what we just went through?
That's a good question. So for me, I don't believe one does it alone. I think it requires support, it requires help, it requires a team, and I'm a huge advocate of mental health support. So I believe therapy works.
Right.
And having those conversations and learning different exercises and techniques to cope with the anxiety or when you get that feeling in your chest or whatever that thing is, seeing the right experts and allowing them to walk with you through those processes to a healthier life. And so I'm a huge advocate of mental health. And it's something I encourage every entrepreneur I work with to consider. Go to at least one visit, see a therapist and let them have some conversation with you.
Right.
I have a long relationship with Arbor Circle, one of the largest mental health agencies
Yes.
in West Michigan.
Yes.
I served on their board for 9 years.
Okay.
I was their 2021 honoree last year for my commitment to mental health. And it's something that I'm just a big advocate for, very big advocate. And I think that to survive what we've seen in the last 2 years, you don't do that alone.
No.
You don't do that sitting at home by yourself trying to figure it out. You do it by getting the right support from the right experts in this space of therapy.
And it may be therapy, it may be a friend, or you just have to just go through it. Like I said, we were all isolated anyway, so it wasn't hard to do. But I didn't take isolation well. I just
Right.
thought my whole, like you understand, you're
Yeah.
a person that gets out there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Zoom wasn't doing it for me.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
then watching everybody else kind of,
Gotta be around
go.
people.
Yeah, so yeah, we need that energy.
Yeah.
We need to feel that. We need to feel
Yeah.
safe.
Yep.
and I didn't feel safe at all.
Absolutely.
And I think when you don't feel safe, and then women might be different. When you don't feel safe, all of a sudden you're grasping at everything to get your safeness back. I don't know how, is that right?
That's an interesting perspective of it, and I agree. I mean, everybody, it affects everyone differently. Suicide rates are up.
Right.
I mean, within the Black community, we've seen increases of suicide and things of that nature. And a lot of it stems from the stress and the pressures of life and the traumas that have been created. And of course, the pandemic over the last 2 years has played a huge role in this.
We couldn't see our enemy, and it was there. You understand, not seeing something before, you could clearly see, like you and I went through 9/11.
Yep.
We saw our enemy.
Absolutely.
Right? And all of a sudden, but we couldn't see this.
Yep.
And that's, how do you, no matter how much we knew we couldn't stay in our homes forever. Because eventually, we were gonna, the lights were gonna be turned off. We had to work.
And that's again why I'm an advocate of mental health support.
Right.
And really seeking it out and getting the help and talking to someone who understands this space better than we do.
Right. And seeing your dreams go down. All right. The other, like I said, the struggle was hard. Okay, it's hard. How do you
that's
easily?
just
We
the
went through
reality
that.
of it.
Right. You just, it's over.
No
it's hard.
sugarcoating it.
You know,
No
a lot of people
sugarcoat.
just will look at you and say, you don't have what it will take. Let's
Yeah.
just say you wanted to be a Marine, right? Or you wanted to be Special Forces or Navy SEAL. I mean, there's a lot to that, right? And some people might come out, you really don't have what it takes, because you can't imagine, because some people don't even make it.
Yeah, I mean,
that are
going
physically fit.
into the journey knowing that it's going to be hard, this is where you have to find something greater than the hard. Meaning, there has to be something greater that you can look for, grab hold to, reach for, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
If that dream, that goal on the other side isn't big enough, then it's not worth going through the hardness and the struggle of trying to figure this all out.
And what do you think about, today that everybody is trying to alleviate the process of the struggle?
Yeah.
Do you understand? Of course, I don't want my children to struggle. Of course, you don't want your children to struggle. But you do, as you are on the other side of it, you're saying, okay, but you can't learn what I've learned and have the strengths that I've had unless you struggle, which is really not, you almost want to scream, why does it have to be that way? But it's the game in which the human person has to go through.
Absolutely.
So what do you think about people who are like, let's just keep pushing all the struggle away and then expect a good outcome?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because that struggle, going through those hard times and those challenges is what is a part of the process, and that is where the growth happens.
Right.
Growth happens in uncomfortable times. It doesn't happen in comfortability. So being uncomfortable is what produces that growth. And so it's important that the growth, you have to allow that person to go through in that process to help them develop to become the person that they're supposed to be on the other side of all this.
Right.
And I believe that any time we interfere in that process, we stunt the growth of that individual. And we interfere in God's plan. And now that person will never grow into what they could have been, because of our interference and our own selfishness of wanting to see this person not have to go through this struggle, rather than just letting it happen the way that it's meant to happen for their situation.
And I know you went through that, and your first big business break, it went south, when you talk about in the book that, what was the story? The apples.
Yeah.
You realize that they were going to point to everybody else, and they're pointing at you.
Yeah.
That story hit really hard, because a lot of us may have been through a work situation like that, or something, and they think you're the problem, and the coup happens.
Yeah.
And you don't realize they're going after you.
And looking back on it, that's one of the best things that ever happened to me, because a part of the struggle again, this bad situation pushed me into what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And led me to where I am now. And it's again, one of the best things that ever happened to me. In the moment, you don't understand it. You really don't get it until after the fact. And then that's when you realize that there's value in those hard times.
Well, and that's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, so then I have the victory. It's so sweet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's
it's
my
true.
co-author, Shannon. Those are her words. She wanted to add that.
It's so sweet, and it's true. That first victory you get, you earn, and then it starts going down from there. But it is sweet, and to see people. And how do you deal with, and I know we're going to be probably pressed for time here because there's a lot here. But how do you deal with you receive victory? We talked about that in the arena where you're with your critics, people that maybe not be on your side. I always tell people you don't know your enemies until you become successful.
Yeah, that's it.
Then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. as long as you're doing okay, you're not threatening them, right? But as soon as you surpass, it's like somebody losing more weight than you on the same diet, you become enemy number one, right? But how do you, can you share with people that probably experience, like I experienced that?
Yeah, I think we all have. I mean, once you, like you said, once you reach a certain level of success, it comes with the territory. The thing for me is, I just don't give it the energy. I don't believe in feeding negativity. I don't believe in feeding that kind of energy. I feed it, it grows bigger, it comes after me more. I'd rather just starve it to death and let it die. And besides that, I like to play up here. And most of those don't play down. They play down here. They don't play up there with me.
Oh,
so
that is true.
I can't hear you from way up here.
All right, number 8, significance.
Yeah, significance is the reason we do this. It's all about serving the people. It's all about helping the people. And so I believe that as we achieve these goals of life and success, it's our obligation as people to then turn to the next and say, here's how I did it.
Yeah, you gotta be able to take and redo it.
Absolutely.
Repeat, like you said, repeat
wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah.
And then you know you have a successful process in which people to follow.
Yep.
You know what? And then you wrote a poem.
I did.
You know, and what year was that?
Oh man, 2010.
10?
I want to say maybe 2009. It was it was early in my career.
Okay.
I started speaking in 2007, so it might have been like 08, 09 when I wrote that, and it's become something I'm known by in the speaking space and when I speak at events, and yeah.
You know, it's sweet that you're a poet. All right, now we're 2022.
Yeah.
We wrote the book, you got your stats, we went through COVID, whatever. Okay, share what's going on with you these days.
So much. So I can just run down a few different things really quickly here. I just recently invested in a new company called Malamaya Juice Bar and Eatery. It's been around for about 8 years. I became a new co-owner and COO. We've got a location downtown at Studio Park, and we're preparing to open a second location at the David Hunting YMCA right downtown Grand Rapids.
I'm on the board of the YMCA.
Oh, really? There you go.
That's
great.
Well, I'm on the Vistor board, but we just had a branch. I mean, that is great.
Yeah, we're preparing to open a location next month.
Is it healthy stuff?
It's all healthy stuff, all healthy juices, smoothies, fruits, vegetables, you name it. So everything is a healthy option.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's already there. So
you know what? Could use some
got that at Studio Park.
You could use some microgreens.
I'm happy to bring it up to the guys and see what they think for sure.
You know, give it a try, whatever. All right, and then you have that business, and then you had what was the other business?
Raise the Glass Tours is probably the other one. So Raise the Glass Tours is an upscale wine tour experience that's designed to give our guests a trip around the world through wine, food, and culture.
In one location, you have
so
tours and place, right?
We're the only city-style tour in Michigan. So we take you to different restaurants and wine bars. They curate a semi-private experience for our guests, and then you're served an all-inclusive menu of wine and food pairings.
Oh my God! So how long have you had that? No, really, how long have you had that?
We've had that for about 3.5 years.
Okay, so you have 8 businesses. So what? We have 5 minutes, so I want to get this information from you, right? All right, so you're looking at a business pitch. You probably get that a lot.
I do all the time.
Right. What are some of the key things? Because people give. I know. I mean, with Kris, you
That's
just met
a very
him, right?
good question. Very good question.
What are some of the key things you're looking at when you're like, okay, this looks like this could work?
Yeah, I'm looking for uniqueness, something innovative. I'm looking for the person that says, I'm hungry, I'm ready for this next level, and I've done all that I can do with this phase, and I need help to get to the next level. I'm looking for that person that's already invested in their ideal and their vision, and they began the process of creating something, and they just need a little bit of assistance to get it to that next level to grow and have success.
Oh yeah. So how does it feel to be? We talked about being a father, whatever.
Yeah.
And your oldest son is what, 7?
He's 7. Yep.
7. Okay. So what now, as parents out there, and you're going to be teaching your kids totally different, right? Share a little bit about what would you teach your son, your child, and your daughter, right?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. What would you teach them today?
My kids know we have no limits. We have no ceiling. You can do anything. There's nothing that you can't accomplish. If you really truly want to do it. It's going to be work. It's going to be hard. But that's what they believe, that's what they understand, that's what they know. They know that entrepreneurship is what we do.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with having jobs, but we prefer to play in a different space. And I encourage my kids to be those same things, to own rather than to work for. And then I would say the other piece of that is they also understand what it looks like to see a successful marriage. My wife and I will be married 13 years this year.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
so this is all our kids know, is having both of us there. Right. And so understanding
it
the
takes
importance
2 to raise kids,
absolutely takes 2, especially at this age.
I know.
And so this is all they know.
And all they do is like sponges.
Yeah.
And they're watching. If you don't notice that, I love my mother, but my dad was my big hero. And I followed him. He had 5 daughters. Imagine, you should start praying.
That's a lot of
you should have prayed for him,
right?
But my dad was my hero. My dad could say anything, and I'd be like, You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yep.
You know what I mean? So, all right, so we're looking out to entrepreneurs. Give them some advice for post-COVID and to get us through, and how to deal with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit? You dealt with that, and I deal
good.
with that. A lot of people do.
That's good. Yeah.
They self-sabotage themselves
All
because
the
they feel
time.
like they aren't worthy.
Yep.
All
All
right,
the time.
so, you know, they're listening.
I think the advice I would give on the imposter syndrome is personal development. I think it starts with personal development of you really spending time getting to know you, what you're good at, what that strength is, what that thing you want to invest in. And then the next thing I'll add to that is something I'm actually working on right now. It's called Don't Be Humble. Don't tell me to be humble. Meaning, you shouldn't be humble when you know your gift is something special and unique and different and it adds value to something. You don't have to play down your success. It's okay to say that you're really good at this.
Okay.
It's okay to say that you deserve this. It's okay to say that my family deserves the success that I have and they deserve to benefit from it. Don't tell me to be humble. After all that I've had to go through to get here, the last thing I'm going to do is be humble. This is a celebration. And I'm going to celebrate, and I deserve to be celebrated. And every entrepreneur that's on a journey that's trying to figure this thing out, and they're dealing with this code switching or imposter syndrome or whatever that thing is,
Right.
This is not a time to be humble. This is a time for you to be confident in who you are, confident in what you believe, confident in your skill sets, and not to be humble. You deserve to be celebrated in this moment because you've overcome a lot of stuff that we simply don't know and not aware of to get to the point that you're at. And for that reason alone, you deserve to be celebrated with your skills and your gifts and your talents and abilities.
And who's your motivational go-to person when you need to get through a difficult situation?
Les Brown, hands down.
Oh, Les Brown, yeah, he's
it's
a good
Les-
one. Well, if you know his struggle, look him up. If you know what
if
he
you know
came
his
from,
story, yeah.
you would have never. That's a miracle in itself, right?
Absolutely. He's hands down my number one go-to and has been for my whole career. This September will make 14 years that I've been doing this. And he is hands down my number one go-to. I'm sorry, 15 years that I've been doing this. And he's my go-to every time. It never gets old.
No, it never gets old. He never gets old. And I used to listen to him. I mean, I post, I mean, there's what a lot of people are saying, you know, those are really good, but you just need to do it.
Yeah.
Just do
You
it.
got to get out there and make it happen.
And you can't wait for, Les Brown can get you through some difficult times, but you just have to take that one step and start moving.
That's it.
Correct?
That's it.
All right, so you still do speeches for people, right?
I do. I
emceeing
still
events,
speak all over the place. Yeah. Still speak
yeah.
all over.
All right, so tell everyone here how they can reach you, learn more about you, and get to, you know.
For sure. Visit my website at krismathis.com, KRISMATHIS.com. You can shoot us a message right through there. My team will make sure it gets to me, and we can connect in.
All right. All right. So we want to thank Kris Mathis for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. And it was a wonderful interview. And I knew it, because you know what I mean? As soon as I met you, I'm like, okay, this is going to go well, right? All right. This is Pamela Keim from GRTV Media Business TV, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.